couple of weeks ago, we showed you guys the 1776 dividend payment, the Warrior Dividend that Trump announced. We showed you that announcement, and we also explained to you guys how that money was actually reappropriated funds that were supposed to go to the military anyway towards housing for the military. Well, guess what? Fox News just found out about the reappropriated funds. Let's hear what they have to say about it.
I'm interested, though, in Jessica and what you just said, because that was news to me.
Okay, so Defense One, I think, was the first to report it. This reporter, Thomas Novelli, I don't know. President Donald Trump's 1776 checks for more than 1 million troops announced Wednesday comes from congressionally allocated reconciliation funds intended to subsidize housing allowances for service members, a senior administration official confirmed.
So it's not from tariffs? Well, that kind of sucks.
So we're not taking the money.
You're taking the money from their housing and you're giving it to them.
So we're stealing the money from troops and then giving it back to troops.
It's just that if you're going to do
it's not a bonus. It's money they were already getting.
If it wasn't for Jessica Tarlov, those clowns on Fox 5 would be so incredibly uninformed on things, even more so than they already are. We heard that sucks from the panel, and we heard Jesse Waters say, oh, so they're stealing from the military and giving back to the military. Mike, what do you make of Fox News, even in their admitting of like this kind of sucks, their continued sane washing and just, oh, well, you know, that's just what we do. It's Trump, et cetera, et cetera. That's kind of the vibe that I got from this segment. What do you make of what we just saw? Is there anything to it, or is this just another one of those giving Trump a pass on it, no matter what he does, whether it's to his own citizens, depriving them, or to the military, depriving them, scamming them? What do you make of that?
As much as I would like to think it actually means something for Fox News to admit this, you know, we know their business tactics, we know how they operate, and I think it's, if anything, it's like a little blip of honesty. You know, it seemed pretty candid in the moment. But I'm pretty sure that if they didn't turn around and spin it right away, that somebody else will later, or they're just going to bury it and whatnot and move on. But it is interesting to hear Jesse Waters admit, like, hey, so we're stealing from the military and then giving it back to them. And as Jessica pointed out, it's not a bonus. So yeah, I think this whole thing is kind of ridiculous. I can't remember what network I overheard, but Trump was interviewed about the 1776 Warrior Dividend, and he was talking about how the funds that were used, or that they were going to use for this dividend, ultimately totaled, I think it was like 1775. And then he said he came up with the idea of, oh, if you put one more dollar, it'll be 1776. Won't that be great? And then he patted himself on the back about, nobody thought of this. Nobody thought of it. I thought of it. And it's just one more thing for Trump to sit here and pretend like he cares about the troops, even though he's got this deep history of calling them suckers and losers. He doesn't like seeing wounded veterans at his parades or at his events. He doesn't want to have his picture taken with them. There was a captain who was severely wounded in Iraq, I believe it was. And he was in a wheelchair and things like that. And Trump told the general who brought the captain out, don't ever put him out in public again. And it's like, these are our heroes. These are our veterans. These are our troops. These people make the biggest sacrifice there is. It all boils down to Trump putting on the facade that he cares, and that he's very pro-military, even though he dodged the draft 5 times himself. So it is interesting that a multi draft dodger is going to be the one issuing this Warrior Dividend to begin with. And this whole warrior ethos that they're trying to bring back to the Department of War. And it's all, you know, a lot of chest thumping and not a lot of substance.
As we mentioned before, I mean, look, I think the motives here are pretty clear, and I think most people see Trump is trying to buy the military's loyalty. You know, the military is already, I would say, pretty well taken care of as far as government benefits, as far as the money that was already supposed to go to them for housing, that housing is taken care of. They already don't have as much to worry about as average citizens do, and rightfully so. They deserve it. But for Trump to announce this dividend as if it's something new, as if it's money from tariffs or wherever he said the money was supposedly coming from originally, turns out to be BS. It was going to them anyway. That is a total 100% Trump move to take something that was already in motion that had a net positive, and for him to kind of like wiggle his way and put his name on it to kind of claim like, this was my idea, this is mine. It's the Warrior Dividend brought to you by Trump. It's just another reason for him to take something that was already appropriated and to rubber stamp it with his name. We've seen this before where he's taken things, Biden initiatives that he's done and claimed credit for them. We just talked about that in another video. Trump putting his name on the new Trump Kennedy Center. You know, it's just another way for Trump to put his name on something, which I think is the lesser egregious thing about this. But again, the more egregious thing is, I think he's trying to buy the military's loyalty. For what? Well, that's a very good question we should be asking ourselves. We are 1 year into his second term. We don't know how the midterms are going to go next year. It looks right now like it's a pretty solid blue win, just based on how this first year has gone just absolutely abysmally for the Republicans. And we saw in the special elections we just had, it's kind of a hint at what's to come, where the Democrats completely wiped the floor. So a nice little preview of what's to come next year. But, you know, is Trump gearing up the military for some type of voter suppression? Is he trying to win them over to continue his regime change war in Venezuela that we see him doing? Is there another war on the horizon that him and Marco Rubio are brewing up that they want the military ready to fight for? Is he trying to send the military into more blue cities as he's done with the National Guard? Is he trying to extend his ICE force with more people that some might already be in the military? You know, the speculation is here because his motives are unclear and not according to what they claim, which is the most transparent administration in history. This might be the most cover-up administration in U.S. history. Always what they say turns out to be the exact opposite. I mean, look at the Epstein files. We've talked about this plenty of times on this channel, but the fact that they're redacting the names of the perpetrators when they say, according to the law, what they're supposed to do is redact the names of the victims, that just says it all right there. This whole delayed release of these files that were supposed to come out as a campaign promise to Trump that only came out because the law required it of them, and still they defied the law by not releasing all the files. They just found a million new files. Like, the whole thing of this administration being the most transparent in history is just absolutely insane when you consider the facts of the matter. And this Warrior Dividend scam, I think, plays into that nicely because I think the motives are kind of out there in the open. He's trying to buy the loyalty of the military, whether it's for, more illegal orders that they want to give them, like what we've seen with the Venezuelan boat strikes. Could that be something where it's like, the more loyal you are, the more you're willing to follow orders that might land you in prison later on, but you don't know? That's a kind of a dark thing to think about. But look, this literally happened. Hegseth and the chain of command have been under immense fire recently over the past couple of months because of these boat strikes that couldn't even be classified as war crimes because we're not technically at war with Venezuela. These would be worse. These would be murder charges. So, you know, it's really, when you put all the pieces together, and there's really not that many, and you don't have to go all conspiracy theory on this, it really does make sense to me that this is just a ploy for loyalty buying. The money was going to the military already for something that they needed, which is housing. And he took that money out, he put his name on it, and he gave it right back to them. I just see this as a pure transaction, all in the favor of Trump.